Alright, so here we go. We're going to do 2.2. We're going to take some notes. You need pages 36 and 37 out. And we're going to talk about inequalities. Okay, an inequality is anything that has a less than sign. And the less than one is the one that sort of looks like an L. So remember, L for less than. I know the alligator eats the larger number or points to the smaller, but you need to know that this symbol just sitting here by itself is the less than. This is greater than. This one is less than or equal to. So yeah, it's kind of underlined. That means or equal to. And this is greater than or equal to. So we're going to be working and solving some inequalities. So over here you can see the subtraction property of inequality. It's just saying that just like equations, if you subtract the same thing from both sides, you will wind up with another equivalent inequality. And this works the same way with addition. If you add the same thing to both sides, it actually also works with multiplication and division. As long as you do the same thing to both sides, it will work. There are a couple other things we'll talk about with multiplying and dividing, but we'll get there. So let's move on down here to these examples. You solve these just like you would an equation. So to get x isolated, you would add 3. And when you do that, you are left, these cancel, with x is less than, negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. So when you make a number line here, you can be real simple about it. Let's just throw on a 0, a 1, and a negative 1. Maybe a negative 2. Excuse me. Just a few numbers so that you know what you're graphing. And then x can be anything less than negative 1. So it can be numbers down this way. If you need to make your number, your arrow a little above your number line, you can, so that it shows up if you're using pencil. And then can it be negative 1? So it can't be negative 1. It says x is less than negative 1. So we're going to put a circle around that, meaning it can be around negative 1. It could be negative 1.1, negative 1.2, negative 1.5, negative 1.75. But it can't be exactly 1 because there's no equal sign. Okay, let's look at this next one. To solve for h, how do you get rid of a minus or negative 3? Add 3 to both sides. Negative 3 plus 3 makes 0 is greater than h. Now, to help you graph this, you might want to rewrite this in a different way and write the h on the left. So if we say 0 is greater than h, notice how if you want to call this an arrow, the arrow is pointing at the h. Over here we have to say h is less than 0. So again, let's just put a few numbers on our number line so that we know what's what. H is less than 0, so it can be numbers over this way. Can it be exactly 0? Is 0 less than 0? No, so it has to be around 0. So you put an open circle on the 0. Okay, that's the scoop with those two. Let's flip the page. Let's go to the next page. And let's look at this one. First of all, when you see minus and negative, you should just automatically think s plus 1 is greater than or equal to 2. Solve that as you would. Negative 1, minus 1. And we get s is greater than or equal to 1. So again, let's put a 0, a 1, and a 2. How about? Because we're using 1, so let's put at least one number below the number we're using, or we're graphing, and at least one number above. This time, s is greater than 1, so it's going to be the numbers up this way, greater, and it can be 1, so we fill in the circle, or fill in the point this time. So filled in means it has the equal sign underneath. It can be 1, and then it can be 2, it can be 10, because 10 is greater than 1, it can be 20, it can be 100, any of those. So when you have the equal sign, you fill it in. When it is not an equal sign, you leave it open like we did on examples 1 and 2. Alright, why don't you pause the video and you go ahead and work example 4 and 5. And then we'll restart the video and I'll go through it with you to see if you are able to do it. So pause, you work problems 4 and 5, and and then I'll work them with you in just a second. Okay, hopefully you worked these. If you're combining like terms on this side, 6 and negative 9 is negative 3, plus u is less than negative 2. To get rid of a minus or negative 3, add 3. And we are left with u is less than 1. So again, with your number line, let's put on the number we're going to graph and at least one number larger and one number smaller than it. U is less than 1, so it cannot be 1, so we put an open circle on the 1, and then our arrow needs to go toward the less than side. 0 would be a solution that works. 0 is less than 1. Negative 5 works. Anything negative would be less than 1. And then on this one, you've got 12 is less than or equal. If I combine like terms here, I have c plus 10. Subtracting 10 from both sides, we get 2 is less than or equal to c. Sometimes it's hard for people to graph when it's like this, because you're like, what? 2 is less than c? So what that really means is that c is greater than or equal to 2. So write this backwards. Write it with the c, and again, if this, let's go back to grade school, if the alligator is eating the c, the alligator still has to be eating the c no matter which way we write it. So I think rewriting your answer like that, we're going to graph a 2, so let's put a 3 on here, and at least one number higher and one number lower. This is greater than or equals. So your equal means you fill in the 2, because the answer can be 2. 2 would be equal to 2. And it can be anything greater. So your arrow is going off in that direction. And really your arrows should be on the number line. I make mine a little bit above, and I would suggest you do too, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time really darkening it in, and you can tell the difference in your line and the actual number line. Alright, let's pause the video again. Let's have you work number 6, and then start it up again when you're ready to see me work through it. Alright, combining like terms over here, you would have 15 plus p. Those two combined would be p is greater than 13. I'm going to subtract 15 off of each side. That leaves us with p is greater than negative 2. So let's put a negative 2 on here. One number lower, one number higher would be the minimum I'll let you do on a number line. Our answer is greater than negative 2, so it can't be negative 2. It would be close or around negative 2 is how I help myself think about that open circle. And then it's going toward the greater than side. So that's that one. That means everything over here, of course all positive numbers will be greater than negative 2. Negative 1 is greater. 0 is greater than negative 2. So those are all, we have a lot of solutions that will work to answer that problem. Alright, then the last one, word problems. You have $15 to spend on groceries. You have $12.25 worth of groceries already in your cart. Write an inequality that represents how much more money, M, you can spend on groceries. So you can spend M more dollars. If you add that to the $12.25 you already have in your cart, that can only be 15. So it can be equal to 15. Can you spend more on groceries than the 15 you have? No, you can't spend more, so this can't be greater than, but you can definitely spend less. So this can be less than or equal. And then this says to solve it, so you just subtract 15 minus the 12.25, and you get $2.75. So that would be $2.75 more you can spend. And that is it for those notes. So you can now begin working on your assignment, and I will see you back tomorrow.